And we are live. Good
Live.
morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Nice to see you here again.
Yeah.
And Kimberly, hello, how are you?
I'm good, honey. How are you? You excited for today?
I'm very
Our
excited
first
for
guest?
today.
What?
Absolutely. Guys, we have our first guest. So we're going to introduce her very quickly. Um, so we have, as you imagine, we stream from 2, 3 very far away place from the world. So if any connection hiccup happen, please forgive us. So let me check if we are live on LinkedIn first of all. Kimberly, how
Happening
was your?
now. We are live, ma'am. We are live.
You're live. Good.
We're live.
Yes, we are. So our podcast last week was so engaging again. We gain more and more traction. And if you're thinking about this is a very new brand podcast. We have done only 6 episodes and it's gaining so much traction so quickly. So we are pleased to be here today for this is the second season of Keep It Real podcast host co-host by myself and Kimberly. And today's episode 7, right? Second
Yes.
season,
Yes.
episode 7, and we got our first guest, Sherress Hicks, that we're going to introduce quickly. Just check in. Oh, we already have a few comments.
I see that. Anne says hello. Hi,
Anna's
Anne.
here.
Anne. Hi, Anne. Thanks for coming. Thanks for
Thank you very much
coming.
for coming. So we are live today from Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. As you know, if you want to stay, if you want to keep your privacy, you're perfectly free to do it. We are happy that you are here. But if you want to reveal your name, your surname, you want to expose yourself, you want to uh, say who you are, please give permission to this platform, right? Oh, thank you. Well, it's very nice
Thanks, Anne.
engagement we got. Yes.
Yeah, Anne's wonderful. She's been here, I think, since we started. Honestly, I think.
Yeah, we can start it. So last,
Hi,
hello,
Julie.
Julie.
Julie just popped in. Hi, Julie. Thanks for
Thank you for
coming.
coming.
Thanks for coming. I feel like Sundays are girl time, or some guys pop in, they do, but I feel like it's girl time. It's like where all the girls kind of get together and we just have a conversation, like over coffee or something, and all of the interesting things that we have to talk about. So it's always
Exactly.
Sundays are always good. I
And,
highly look forward to Sunday mornings. Yeah.
and this is very exciting. So I double checked last episode, and it looked like sometime we talk on top of each other. So apologize for that. It's just because we have a lag. We are so far away that sometimes internet is not just straight away, but a little bit of lag. So
All
we
right.
are
All right.
very engaged in this conversation. So please forgive us. But yes, we want to hear the opinion, comments of everyone. Good morning to
Good morning,
you.
whoever you are.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for
coming.
coming.
Thank you so much for coming. So, just quick recap last week. Last week, we're talking about silence in nursing. What actually happened when nurses speak up, but they are ignored and sometimes also punished by the leadership that doesn't want really make any change, any improvement. It has been a very engaging conversation, and people were very warm about it and passionate about it. And today we want to continue this conversation. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
I know Cherise will have amazing insight to share. I can't wait. Hello to you. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you for acknowledge Cherise. We decide to have her today as our guest because we're going to continue this conversation, but we're going to see from a lens of the strategies, system strategies, which is series. So unfortunately, the camera is off for internet connection. So we prefer have her be able to hear her what she have to say, that have too much lag or hiccup in the connection. So I put her on a screen with a picture, but you can hear her. So, Sherress, thank you very much for coming. We are very thrilled to have you. Do you mind to introduce yourself, please, to the audience? Thank you
Well,
very
thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Dina and Kimberly. Thank you both for having me on the podcast today. I'm a little bit under the weather, but I had to come on because I'm excited to have this conversation with you all. So, thank you so much. Shout out to you both. Shout out to your audience.
Okay.
Just so glad to be here. And just to kind of introduce myself, I am the author of Think Like a Manager and the creator of the Think Like a Manager framework. So I'm a healthcare strategist and a leadership consultant. And what I do is I blend agile thinking with cognitive behavior tools. In the past, I was a behavioral health counselor for 17 years. And in that, I was also a manager of programs um, in the clinical setting. And so I combine both agile thinking and cognitive behavioral therapy to help leaders build a healthier, higher performing workplace. So what I do is I try to bridge operations with emotional intelligence and also culture, which actually challenges leaders to examine not just how the system runs, but how fear, silence, and trust actually shape the employee's behavior. Um, so yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I love clinical processes and workflows and improving all of that. And I also love leadership. I love people management. And I believe that this topic that we are discussing today is very important. So thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It is very important. We know it is a global problem, actually. So this is why we
Mhm,
wanted to talk about in our podcast. And as
mhm,
Anne said, here in New York City, we are nurses strike, and we got to talk about
mm,
this at least to keep pick this one as example on when nursing silence happen. And we're going to do a very quick introduction of myself, Kimberly. We're going to start with the disclaimer that used to do every single episode, and then we can go and start our conversation. We ask our audience, please, to engage as much as you can. Please, even if you want to keep your privacy, we are so happy that you do it because you must feel comfortable in express yourself. So if you prefer to stay private, it's absolutely fine for us. Just say what you want to say. And if you instead you want to say who you are in public, you have to give permission to LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, which are the platform we are streaming on from today. Kimberly, please introduce yourself. Thank you very much.
Oh my goodness. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. Dina, thank you so much for this opportunity again. And episode 7. And Sherress, thank you, honey, so much for coming. When I reached out to you, I was like, oh my God, yes, yes. Yes, we have to have Sherress. We have to have her knowledge, and we want to have it through a different lens. So again, thank you for coming.
mhm,
I'm Kimberly Maurer. I've been a nurse 29 years. I've been in healthcare for 36 years. I have started my own business, Unapologetically You Collective. So, like Dina, I'm coaching nurses, coaching professionals through pivots, through transitions, through change, and it's been quite a journey. And I'm truly excited about what the future holds and how all of us coming together, because together we rise, all of us coming together to make the change that we want to see. Because if we don't name it, we can't defend it. We can't, if we're not changing it, we're choosing it. So all of us, all of us have to just keep coming together. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. As Sherress said, in a nutshell.
Hi everyone, I'm Dina Paoloni. I'm an Italian nurse in UK, and so I'm an international educated nurse in UK. After 12 years of experience in my country, I moved in UK in 2015. So already 10 years I'm here. And since 2015, I help other nurses to move and thrive abroad. I first started with Italian nurses. In just at the end of 2014, actually, I created a Facebook group for Italian nurses who want to move abroad, and I helped thousands of them through message, email, and then coaching. In 2019, I founded Nurses Move, which is a career coaching firm for international educated nurses now, and I coach them to thrive abroad in their career, in their life abroad. I'm part of the NHS Clinic Entrepreneur Program, and I own a project to retain international educated nurses in UK with the NHS. I'm also part of the NHS AI. I'm an AI ambassador, part of the NHS Future network, and we are starting this conversation because by studying international nursing, I realized there are common problem. And so podcast is one of those. We talk about this program. Hi, Casey. We so love to see you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. So this is me in a nutshell. And we're going for our disclaimer, which is very important for us.
Bring it, girl. Bring it.
And I'll bring it now.
Disclaimer: the Hierarchy Betrayal Podcast. Warning: unfiltered, unscripted, unapologetic. This podcast is brought to you by two nurses who've had enough of the BS. We're talking about the real healthcare system, the one that exploits nurses, commodifies patients, and protects profit over people. What to expect? Zero scripts, just raw, honest conversation. F-bombs, probably more than a few. We're passionate, not polished. Uncomfortable truths. If you're a manager who's complicit in the hierarchy betrayal, this content may cause discomfort, embarrassment, or a sudden urge to defend the indefensible. Not suitable for sensitive managers allergic to accountability, anyone invested in maintaining the status quo, those who prefer their healthcare conversations sanitized and corporate approved. Suitable for nurses tired of being used and abused, healthcare workers ready to call out the mafia, anyone who believes patients deserve better than a system designed for profit. If you're here, you're ready for the truth. Welcome to the Hierarchy Betrayal.
We are so proud of this.
I love that disclaimer.
Oh my God, I absolutely love the disclaimer, ladies. That is amazing.
Thanks to AI, though.
I love it.
I love it. That fits me perfectly. I see why you all wanted me on this show.
Exactly. So let's go through a little bit this episode. So today's episode, the second episode of season 2, Hierarchy Betrayal. And the first episode, the second season, was about sound of silence in nursing, when nurses speak up but no one listens because it's not what the corporate side want, actually. So today we're going to talk about the sound of silence in nursing, but through the lens of leadership. Both myself and Kimberly are leaders, but we want someone that is a system strategist. So we invite Sherress Hicks to talk about what we already talked last episode, actually, but understanding also the other side. Actually, how can really improve this situation, which is global. I mean, this problem is a global problem. So we're joined by Sherress Hicks, founder, system strategist, builder of human-centered infrastructure, a woman who does not blame people. She fixes the system that shapes outcome. Sherress worked at the intersection of leadership, operation, and design. She understands what's happened when organizations are built for efficiency but not humanity, and when workflows matter more than workers. When speaking up exist in theory, but not in protection. So, this is a conversation today about what silence costs to patients, what silence costs to teams, what silence costs leaders who think they are listening, but they are not responding. It is about hierarchy betrayal, psychological safety that only exists in slides, and what real accountability actually looks like when it is more than a word. As usually, we don't have the script, we don't have corporate language, just nurses to talk about this topic. And we really want your engagement, guys, because it's through conversation that issues, problem are understood well and so can be solved. Kimberly, please.
Right. Oh my goodness. So when we were talking about having a guest on the show, we were talking. Okay, so we've talked so much about silence and what happens when you are silent, but what also happens when you try to speak up and you are silenced. There's a difference. So we were discussing we need to bring in someone with who sees it through a different lens, who can help strategize how to see this differently. And even though we all have ideas, we all have solutions, we all can see the obvious, right? I mean, the obvious is right in front of us. We all know it's broken, we all know what needs to be fixed, but it's how do we fix it. So, and asking Sherress to be here today, I was hoping that she could give us her perspective on what she's seeing with staff, and it's not just nurses, it's universal. It's everybody that brings to the table their concerns, the issues that they're seeing, the instances that are causing harm to patients, causing harm to staff, and those concerns just go unheard. They just get put in a box somewhere and never get talked about again. That's not how we fix things. So, and asking Sherress to be here today, I was hoping that she could give us a perspective on what she's seeing, because obviously, Dina being in the UK, I'm in Florida, I'm in the US, obviously, as Sherress. But just what are you seeing, Sherress? Are you seeing kind of the same things that we are?
Yeah, absolutely. There are two types of silence. There's a healthy silence, and then there's the harmful silence. The harmful silence is basically fear driven. It's very avoidant and it's very controlling. That's kind of how I look at it. And so that harmful silence is actually imposed, not chosen. It's imposed. And so this is a type of silence where, leaders avoid those hard conversations, whether it's because they don't know how to solve the problem and don't know how to communicate that or verbalize that, or put that into language. And so they begin to project, or, leaders just don't want to change the system and how it works. And so then you have it where, nurses or whomever, employees in general, they withhold feedback that needs to be shared with leadership. And that's because mistakes are often punished instead of, being corrected and being discussed. And a lot of the times transparency disappears. So all of that creates this huge sweeping things up under the rug, right? And causing a bunch of confusion. It causes disengagement, and even, and I have to be honest, right? So it causes resentment. Let's be clear. It causes resentment with the employees. And which then they're silently quitting, and there's this high turnover rate. So that harmful silence definitely communicates fear, and that is what is driving the system. Fear is driving the system.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely, it does.
Yeah.
And we talk about this actually. This emerged last time, also a little bit in previous episodes as well. We are really a few comments that I would like to pick and share. But first, I want to ask. You say that there are leadership that want to change, a leadership that actually don't want the change. So you are stating very clearly in your LinkedIn profile, but in general, you state clearly that you prefer the human connection and you want to solve the problem in this way. So my question for you is, when leadership come and ask you for help? Because you clearly explicitly say how you fix the problem. So they are conscious. The leadership won't call you. They are conscious of what's happened. They want to fix it. Otherwise, they won't call you, right?
I don't even think they even call me, but
I mean, they ask you for.
uh um let's be clear. Most of the time, if leaders are engaging with me, it is because they haven't asked. Upper management knows they're an issue, and so here is some training for you. So
Okay.
it's not necessarily that they want me there, but they know they have to fulfill this training for the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you enter in the system in this way. You
Mm-hmm.
fix the system in this way.
Right.
I understand. Okay. If you can I go forward with some comment?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. So I'm I'm Sherress, mini version of Sherress. I know the settings are prefixed, but I'm excited for this topic. I am status quo disruptor. I love it. I love this
Mm-hmm.
disclaimer. Unapologetic, unfiltered. Absolutely. I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing.
Thank
Anne
you.
says, "Hi, I am an oncology doula, helping oncology patients and their family facing the challenges of cancer disease process. I will be speaking in June in Paris at the Women's Health Conference."
Wow.
Awesome. Good for you. I was invited to that, but I couldn't swing it, so I didn't end up going. But that's amazing. Congratulations. Let's see, silence occurs when before a person enters the nursing profession. Often we are taught at a very early age to keep quiet. Often this most likely happens with the female gender. Oh, of course, this is
Absolutely.
always so much competition, I think. You know, and what are we told? Someone said the other day, we're always told to what? Sit down and shut up. Sit down and shut up. Don't speak until you're spoken to. I mean, were we raised like that? Don't say nothing. Don't say nothing. So I feel like maybe that carries over. Um, but Sharice, what bugs me the most is, you know, when we're talking about this, and we have leadership that knows things are not right, okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they, like you say, they put it under the rug. They just brush it under the rug, or pretend it's not happening, pretend it doesn't exist, because acknowledging it is accountability, right?
Correct.
So if you acknowledge it, you're somewhat responsible for admitting it that it's happening. So if you don't per se acknowledge the situation, then it's not happening. It didn't happen. So
Right.
how do we, as a culture, as a profession, weed those people out? I mean, how do we keep people in a profession, in a role for 10, 20, 30 years when they're not changing anything? They just have the years. Oh, they've been here for 20 years. So that doesn't make them a good leader. That doesn't make that the decisions that they're making are the right ones. And I say you have to go back to your staff. And these surveys, I get so infuriated when it comes to these surveys. You know, they say that they're anonymous or whatever, and you send out these surveys, you want your employees to respond and speak freely, whatever. We really want to hear it. But then when you find out that you're getting called into a meeting because of something you've said, but you didn't say it out loud, you said it in a survey. So suddenly that survey is no longer anonymous, is it? So in doing those surveys, if you're really not wanting to collect that data, you're really not wanting to know what your staff is feeling, how if they're feeling safe, if their mental health is good, if the patients are safe, if they're bringing concerns that truly deserve a conversation, why are we being punished for bringing up those conversations?
You know what I think? Not only is silence driven by fear, but it's also driven by people who are comfortable with the system. So comfort then becomes complicity, right? So um when it's driven by comfort, people learn how to survive inside of the broken system. And that's why it never changes. So that's why the workarounds become normal. This is why the comment is always, oh, well, that's just how it is. That's how we've always done it, you know? Um, and so speaking up, actually, if you think about it,
Okay,
it's a
sorry.
cycle. The cycle is, when speaking up is pointless. It becomes pointless because
Right.
nothing changes anyway. And that's very dangerous because comfort in a flawed system slowly turns into the system normalizing risk because it is a risk factor. Um, and so fear creates silence fast, but comfort creates silence slowly. And that's why it's always been this way.
Right. And wouldn't it be nice for one time? I mean, honestly, if we could say, if we didn't have to say, I'm not going to say anything because nothing changes anyway.
Right.
Wouldn't it be so nice not to even have that in our vocabulary?
Mm-hmm.
Because so many things can be changed, so many things can be different. And when people are speaking up, they're not just saying things because for the lack, for the thrill of saying things, they're trying to bring things to people's attention. And what are
Mm-hmm.
we told to do? Well, go up the ladder, go up the chain, go to your manager. Well, if they don't respond, then go to the next person. But then again, you
Mm-hmm.
become a target. You become the disruptor. You become the
Mm-hmm.
one that's difficult. And it's not about being difficult. You're
Mm-hmm.
trying to save patients. You're trying to create
Mm-hmm.
an environment and a culture where people feel safe,
Mm-hmm.
psychologically safe, and people want to come to work because what's
Mm-hmm.
happening? You're just destroying people. You are
Mm-hmm.
destroying their will to continue in this profession. And when they have to talk themselves into it every morning to come to work, that's a problem.
Right.
If you're saying, and I've been that person, I've been like, oh my God, just one more day. I can do anything for one more day. Because
Mm-hmm.
when you don't have that support and you don't have that safety net when you are there, especially if you're short staffed and you have more patients than normal and it's just chaos. I mean, there's always
Mm-hmm.
chaos when we're working. There's always chaos. But it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be bad chaos. It doesn't have to be
Mm-hmm.
a chaos where everybody's fighting with one another or someone
Mm-hmm.
has been labeled because they've tried to speak up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it a
Mm-hmm.
hundred times, and
Mm-hmm.
it keeps coming back to like Anne's saying, we're primarily female. It's a female oriented profession. Most generally, it's female oriented, and it's high school and scrubs. It's not
Mm-hmm.
it's not a we're here, let's all work together kind of thing. It's a me, or the clicks. We all know the
Mm-hmm.
clicks. Do we not know the clicks? Tell me about clicks. Oh my
And
God.
and I believe actually, and she's very right because when nurses enter the nursing world with nursing school, they actually slowly learn this survival mode of silence because they
Mm-hmm.
learn from the behavioral old nurses, seasoned nurses, that they have to survive, so they become slowly silent. And we talk about numbness, moral numbness, emotional numbness last time as well, speaking about silence. And the problem is, if this nurses crisis, it's look like, is getting worse and worse, we have less nurses stay in the profession, but those nurses are even more numbed. So it's hard when you are numbed, emotionally numbed, because you have to survive in your job, workplace. It's become harder and harder to speak up. And so if any nurse speak up, any seasoned nurse speak up, you as a student nurse, you don't have the example of speaking up. And so you have the opposite example. So you learn from negative behavior. And unfortunately, and she's right, I mean, this kind of silence occurs, unfortunately, in the university. I've got a few comments I would like to read, and then, because there are so many, otherwise
Okay.
we really lose track of everything. We have a couple of people that say hello. Thank you very much for coming. So do you mind to read this, Kimberly?
Yeah, sure. So, critical care, rapid response, and patient safety expert, designing the generation of healthcare systems, and writing legislation and active plans to enforce accountability and promote safety. Some work on developing detection and signal tools, accountability and enforcement tools, documentation and evidence tools, clinical policy translation tools, PRIS, MQD, platform tools, governance and reform tools, coalition and pressure tools. Okay, credential betrayal of clinical. Okay, whoever you are, thank you. That sounds like amazing work. Cynthia, thank you. Nursing leaders are just actors. Most of them act according to what management wants. You freaking hit that one on the head right there. Yes, you did. And regarding the nursing strike here in New York City, I've happened to be waiting online, serendipitously buying clothes. This person was part of the administration of the striking hospital regarding, okay? She was concerned and she was caught between what is right for the nurses and what is right for the hospital. And we see that a lot, right? The surveys are a joke. They are. They are a joke. They are a joke. Why even have them? Because you don't listen to anybody. And Anne says, I find that management wants the comfort and management picks their favorites to keep the system in management. They do. They do. I have always been in the front with no backup. I feel that, sister. I feel that. And Anne also says, I was told to be sweeter and more diplomatic. Yeah, well, yeah. No. What I have found, people complain to me and expected me to do something. I have said always on the floor, you are only good as your team. And that's so right. I've always said, you are only as good as the people that work for you. Because, you know, if your people want to be there and they're happy, they're healthy, and they feel safe, they do good work. Because it's not a survival, it's not a fight or flight kind of situation. It's a thriving situation, right? It's a thriving environment. It's a thriving culture where everyone is supportive of another. And you look to your left, you look to your right. Everybody's got each other's backs. That's how it should be. And Manuela says, Ann Wax, that's very true. During internships, we are told to always be quiet. Absolutely. Sit down, shut up, and don't say anything. Yeah, I know. I know, I've seen it. And good morning. I never say her name right. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm following your discussion and value your insights on this topic. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And I'm sorry, I probably said your name. I always say her name. I always do. I think it's Nyampu. Maybe. What do you guys think? Yes? I feel that.
And so I think all these comments are just flow in a couple of minutes, and we needed to read. I think they're all hard testimony of the fact that this problem is global, is common. And so what is your experience with your training? What is your experience, Sherress, in the outcome? Do you see a positive outcome being allowed, or this organization asks you to do the training just for the sake to do the training? Do you see improvement after that? Wanted improvement, I mean.
I'll say this. I think that they make attempts, but the one thing I want to go back to something that I think Kimberly said. She used the word chaos,
Yes.
right? So everybody's functioning dysfunctionally in chaos. And what I try to have them implement is structure. So when you think about hospital, when you think about nursing and everything and the patients, they always have a process for everything. There's a protocol. You have to follow protocol. You have to deal with the patient this way, that way, but they never have any type of structure when it comes to communication.
Mm.
And that's what I try to have them implement because the leaders, it should be routine, just like when you're with nursing, right? You have a routine as far as your patients when you're in the hospital and you're treating your patients, right? And so there needs to be a structure in the form of a safe forum for nurses to be able to voice it. And it needs to be a consistent um, routine structure, like shift huddles. Okay, shift huddles is something that I've been trying to have them move to so that, okay, a quick, and they, they say, oh, well, we don't have the time. We don't have the time. Well, yes, you do. You have the time to take 3 minutes and let's
Mhm.
do a quick shift huddle, review what we need to review, speak up, and say what needs to happen, what needs to be improved, just like rounds, how they do the rounds when they're talking about a patient. We need to have rounds when it comes to communication or, a debrief if something did not go right, or some type of each unit having a unit retrospective, and that's when the voice then becomes a part of the system when you have these things. But they keep saying it's about time and we just don't have the time, but you're not making the time because when you implement a policy, you immediately want to see the result of that policy. So what if this was a policy that we have to have these huddles and because what happens is it actually leads to patient safety. It actually leads to better outcomes. Even when you have the huddles and the nurses and whomever, just whoever is able to use their voice to say, well, listen, I think we should try it this way, and so the leaders, um, they tend to, like I said, still be comfortable with the system that they have built, but you have to have the voice within the workflow.
So sorry, I don't understand because I work in UK. The system is different. We got different policy. So you mean nurses don't have the time to do it, or the leaders don't have the time to do it?
Yeah, the leaders saying that they don't have the time.
Okay. So this is something that the leaders do, not the nurses.
Well, no, the leaders need to be involved. Everyone needs to be involved. Um, so what I'm saying is it won't happen until the leader implements it, right?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Okay, we have a different system here. Here, for example, something happened. We had a system called Datix. Basically, you are the nurse. You have the legal. Um, you have to do it. You have to complete this Datix. Um, Legal accountability. So the nurse fill the forms, and this form is reviewed by the manager and then of the matron, which is the manager of the managers. And then it goes to governance, and the incident, if it's a major incident, is review the policy. So it's a little bit different. So I was trying to understand how your work was, what
So,
your system were working. Yeah. Okay.
so are you thinking, Dina? So are you thinking like when something happens and this is like filing an incident report, and then what happens from there? Is that what you're thinking?
Yes.
Okay, so I think what Sherress is saying is like we used to do what we called huddles. You know, everybody would get together either before shift, after shift, whatnot, to talk about, you know, what's new, what's going on. Is there anything that we need to know going into the day? Has anything been changed? Has anything been updated? So it's kind of like a briefing before the day starts.
Yeah, we
And
do as well. We do as well.
so in bringing leadership into that, there is time for that. There is time for that. I think the nurse manager needs to come out of her office because
Yep.
I've seen it where you don't even know if they're there. Has anybody seen so and so today? Have you? Nope. We never see her, and that's a problem. If your staff is saying that, oh no, we never see her. When somebody asked, that's a problem. Come out of your office. You should be having to come out of your office. And what is so difficult about stopping in the unit 2 or 3 times a day and saying, hi, how's everybody doing today? Does anybody need anything? Is there anything I can do to help anybody? Can I, because you're still a nurse. You're still a nurse. Grab a chart. Do something. You can make a phone call for somebody. You can do something to be present. To be present. That's what a true leader is. So when we're talking about these huddles, it's yes, come out of your office. Let's have a morning huddle. Make yourself visible. Make yourself present where you actually are a leader. Because if you're staying in your office and you're dictating from there, you are a dictator. You are not a leader.
Yeah.
So, no, I totally agree. There is time for it, Therese. There is absolute time for it. You just have to make it.
And also with those huddles, it doesn't always need to focus on, the patient or how are you guys doing today? But let's get to the meat of the problem. What problem are we tolerating that we shouldn't tolerate in this unit right now? What needs to really be addressed?
Right.
So that those types of questions can be asked too.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are the tough questions. But that's the thing. People aren't comfortable with getting uncomfortable.
Right.
Like Anne just said, everyone agreed, and now their heads, and it's good for about 2 weeks, and then things go back to absolutely.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happens. I'll come in, I'll say, hey, implement this. They implement it for 2 weeks and they're right back into that comfort zone.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's like, well, that was really worth my time. But you get the people that are on board with it and people that fight about it, that fight against it. Because honestly, I mean, anytime they implemented a change, everybody would always get their panties in a bunch. And it's like, okay, calm yourself down. Everything's always changing. We're always evolving. New systems are being implemented, new strategies, new ways of doing things, new equipment. We're always evolving. We're always changing. But it's when you don't include your people in those changes. When you just bring it on them and there's no discussion. Like nobody was at the table in regards to how this would roll. If they would just include the nurses and the people that are actually doing the work in this, instead of silencing them and pretending that they don't exist when they create these issues, these new things, it would go so much better. Don't you think it would go so much better?
Well, the nurses see the system break down first because they are the closest to the patient. So they are the ones, and in theory, Mary Parker Follett, who's a former manager, I think in education, if I'm not mistaken, but she says you are supposed to use those who are closest to, in the front line because they see the system break down first. They know what changes need to be made. And they know when there are staffing gaps. They know when there are failures with the workflow. They know when there has been an unsafe handoff from a patient to a nurse or a nurse to, a patient to a doctor or something like that. You all know about the medication concerns. You all know when somebody else is burnt out. You see it first. So if you all are quiet and they're forcing you to be quiet, or let's say it like this: when a nurse is quiet because they have seen how the system works, or you don't want to hear it anyway, that's kind of dangerous because it comes, like I said, it's a risk factor and that affects patient care.
And this is what actually study entrepreneurship. I study the lean methodologies, and the lean methodology basically the Toyota kind of invented. Toyota, the automobile factory, they basically at some point divided that production chain, the dividing cluster. Each cluster had specialized team with a team manager, and the team member with the
Mhm.
team manager were asked to experiment, and but also not just experiment, also to find problems. So find the problem. So
Mhm.
we know the problem, we can work on the problem. If you
Mhm.
see a problem and you not find the problem, we cannot improve. So basically, they
Mhm.
ask each team member for each cluster of the product line to be a problem founder. And
Mhm.
the more problem you find, the more you'll be rewarded. So
Yep.
actually, it's the opposite of happen in healthcare system, and that is what
Mhm.
I was trying to say last time as well. So strange to me that in other industry like manufacturing, like car production, for example, or IT, software, or the company, leadership is becoming more and more servant leadership. They
Mhm.
try to support employer really not at a human level with emotional intelligence, but also make them more accountability to
Mhm.
make sure they could find problem. Because if you are at the very trench of the production and you find up a problem, you must say the problem so we can improve the product. So it's so
Mhm.
strange to me that many other industry are understood have understood these facts, but not the healthcare. Because sometimes to me seems
Mhm.
that, and I don't want to impose my opinion to anyone, but to me it seems that healthcare industry want to keep the system broke, so they keep
Mhm.
they still have people who are sick and they can pay the bill. So if the system gets fixed, less and less
Mhm.
people come back for complication or the problem, right?
Mhm.
So and I don't want to impose my opinion to anyone, but I understand what you say. So we should give more power, at least accountability or freedom of speech to those who are at the very front line to find
Mhm.
problems. So by fixing
Mhm.
the problem, we can improve the system.
Correct. Correct. And in healthcare, the reason why it works in manufacturing versus healthcare is because with healthcare, we've always put uh, doctors and those hospital leaders on a pedestal. Like, they are golden, and we have a lot more education. In manufacturing, you don't have a lot of education. So now you're dealing with people with doctorate degrees and, master's degrees. And there's a lot of pride that comes with that. And what happens is pride will cause you to accuse someone instead of looking at someone as being curious. Pride will cause you to feel shame about not performing well or getting that treatment plan correct instead of learning from your mistakes. Pride will say, this is a threat. This person is a threat to me because they know more than I know, instead
Mhm.
of saying this should be partnership. So,
Right.
that's the difference in the manufacturing, why it works so well with manufacturing. And what Toyota does is PDCA, plan, do, can, act. So they, like you said, they
Yeah,
go through that entire thing, and they don't do that in healthcare because it's all about my education and the knowledge that I have and what I can do well as a surgeon and as a leader and administrator, and I can bring in money, et cetera, et cetera.
that is a good point, actually. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
This is a
Yeah.
factor. This problem is there is this hierarchy also on professionals, one on top
Mm-hmm.
of the other. And yes, unfortunately, this must change anyway. So I don't want to stop your conversation, but we have flood of comments, and some are in favor, some are against. Of course, we want to give voice to everyone, and we can respond anyway. This is the good
Light
of
them
the
up, girl. I'll
conversation.
read them up. Read them up.
Yes,
Light them up.
please. There's so many. So
Go
please,
ahead.
we should have a few minutes just to read them if we can.
Yeah. Okay. So regulatory capture is apparent throughout the healthcare and safety sectors. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. They could staff better. Of course, they could staff better. They could always staff better. Huddles and shared governance models are not the way to affect change. These have been utilized for decades and it has not improved staff or patient safety. I beg to differ. I beg to differ with that. Okay, go on. Anne says, what about the other ancillary positions, such as physicians, medical assistants with personality issues? Well, that's a whole nother podcast, Anne.
But yes,
That's a whole nother podcast.
what Sherry's just said.
Ashley, hi, Ashley girl. Ashley says they don't want to take the time to listen to what we have to say because if they do, then the problems they are addressed, they need to do something about it. And that is the biggest problem for them. They see it as a chore, not as improving patient care and nursing.
Mm-hmm.
Spot on, girl. Spot on. Absolutely right. Right. Again, it's acknowledging it and it's taking accountability. Because if you do that, then you're admitting that there's a problem. Then that's the problem, right? Right. So, Cynthia says implementation is where the real issues are. And I have seen the top management walk around to see how everyone is and ask the questions. How is it going? And everyone keeps silence. Well, in those times like that, Anne, I have to say, thank you for whoever you were for walking around and asking those questions. At least you made yourself present. At least you were visible to yourself. And you did ask that question. And if nobody spoke up, that's on them. At least you tried. And that's the thing, but we don't see people trying. We don't see people coming out of their offices.
Because they are too exhausted, numbed, and really the only thing they wanted to go finish their shift so they can have their salary to be able to feed their family, unfortunately, because of the crisis. So we see in our conversation how one problem adds to the other and that to the other is unfortunately a vicious circle.
It is a vicious cycle for sure. So failure to rescue manifests predictability when decision authority misaligns from accountability and liability while bedside clinicians retain outcome responsibility. This structural displacement creates conditions where escalation becomes personally riskier than inaction. Clinical more disengagement scaffolding produces neurobiologically medicated escalation suppression through the predictable sequence of authority displacement, signal suppression, gaslighting, deviance conditioning, morale. Yes, thank you. I know exactly who this LinkedIn user is. Thank you so much for that. We're going to have a conversation about that again later. And Naipu, again, I'm going to kill her name. Sadly, from my experience with nurses in charge, it is evident that nurses silencing is a global issue that starts in nursing schools, as Dina said, rightly stated. And as adjunct lecturer and clinical instructor, I have noticed the hierarchy of silencing in academia, where we should be modeling and cultivating genuine leadership with our students from the real world, for the real world. Absolutely, 100%. It starts in those institutions. It starts in the learning. What are we teaching them then to where they get to be now? And we've seen so many conversations, at least I have, where we're talking about Gen Z. Well, Gen Z has more of a voice than we've ever had because Gen Z is looking at us and being like, why y'all not talking? Why is nobody speaking? Because I'm about to sit here and shut up and not bring this to somebody's attention. And high five for that new generation because I want to say that they haven't been in it long enough yet to where they haven't found that fear. Where right now they're fearless. Does that make sense? I think right now they're fearless.
Yeah.
And hats off to you guys. Do not back down. Do not lose that strength because, and we always talk so much about armor, right? That we have to wear armor all the time. Do not lose that armor because if this next generation coming in is not afraid and they're looking at all of this nonsense and thinking, having a WTF moment, it's like, how come we can't see that? How come those that are seeing it aren't being heard? And how do we get past the fear? How do we get past the golden handcuffs? We talk so much about that and what drives silence because we fear losing our pension. We fear losing our position. We fear being demoted. Sometimes you get put on a shitty shift. Sometimes you get put, this gets docked, or suddenly your PTO is denied. There's all of those punishments,
Mm-hmm.
for speaking up. And I just don't understand how leadership and how it's so easy to betray the profession that was once your calling, and the why. Why did you get into this in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't get into this to contribute to something so broken that nobody wants to be in this profession anymore, right?
Can you hear me? Because I have technical problem here. Can you
I'm
hear
sorry.
me?
Yeah, we can hear you just
Yeah.
fine. You're
Okay,
good.
sorry. So I have another last comment.
Okay. The
And
phenomenon
I think we are about to close because I
Okay.
know there
The
are time to
phenomenon
stay short.
operates through an explicit conceptual stack. Layer one, clinical authority displacement, misalignment between decision, authority, accountability, and liability. Decision authority shifts from point of care with responsibility remains clinically assigned. Layer two, escalation suppression architecture system. Designs blocking escalation, signals through chain of command obstruction, policy absolution, retaliation signaling. Layer three, institutional gaslighting of clinical judgment. I
This
mean,
is very interesting.
there's
Oh,
so much
sorry.
there. Yeah, Frederick
Yeah.
just popped on. What did Frederick say? Dina, Frederick just came on.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to know what Cherise has about that topic, though.
What do you think about that last comment, Sharice?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What do you think about that last comment that was just up?
This one.
The
Oh,
phenomenon.
what was the comment?
So the phenomenon operates through an explicit conceptual stack. Layer one is clinical authority displacement misalignment. Layer two is escalation and suppression. Layer three is institutional gaslighting.
I can agree with that. I, I,
Yeah,
I definitely can agree with that.
it's definitely.
Yeah.
So I can see this very much in Italy, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And agreed with Cherise, where this layout of authorities that come from the professions, like doctor has authority on nurses regardless if they right or wrong. Okay, and I can see this very well in Italy, where I come from, because there is this clinical authority and this displacement misalignment between decision and accountability. And then there is this layer of escalation suppressor, and there is an architecture of that, because basically only doctor in Italy have really, freedom of speech. And so the third layer is institutional gaslighting. So they gaslight nurses so much. And also this happen on social media, this happen on clinical environment, this happen on newspaper. And so they gaslight the profession so much that the profession doesn't know how to speak up anymore.
Absolutely, absolutely. Will you hit on Frederick, Dina? What did Frederick say?
Now we go, I think.
So Frederick, so how do we actually break the silence without breaking our careers? The solution isn't just bravery, it's translation. You have to stop speaking employee and start speaking risk manager. Here's a tactic you can use your very next shift. I call it the I to it shift. When you are stressed, your brain wants to use I statements. I am overwhelmed. I can't get all of these patients. I need help. To administrator, that sounds like a personal performance issue. It sounds like you can't handle it. Mm, wow, that's a really good way to look at it for sure. Thanks,
Um,
Frederick. And then he
I,
says, and
and I agree with them. Yeah, Frederick, I agree with them, because what I do as a career coach to help my nurses to do a career, but actually to be more self-aware, more able to present themselves in a professional way is actually speak in third person, like
Mm-hmm.
this is the problem. No, I think this is a problem. Like address the problem as that um, another identity. You can raise the problem, say the issue, and you allow other people to analyze the problem. If you speak up in first person, I think we should do this. I think that this happened. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's a personal issue. It's not an entity itself. It's not an issue itself. What do you think about it? It's a communication problem, actually.
Oh, it
And
is absolutely communication. Absolutely, it's communication breakdown. And what does everybody always say? What's the first thing to go? We have no communication. There is no communication. Nobody's talking. Nobody's listening to each other. And we were talking the other day on the Nurse Collective with Mark Carter and Mock Health, and it was joined with Patricia Temple and Ashley Scott and Victoria Hines. And we had a deep conversation in regards to taking the emotion out of everything, because we're so emotionally driven beings because we're human, but because we're natures, nurturers, it's so easy to bring the emotion into it. But if we take that emotion out of it and just the facts, like Frederick just said, take the I out of it and make it a we, and make it a this is what's happening. This is what needs to be fixed rather than a I. And again, bringing those things up doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean any of that as well. And so many people think that, well, if I raise my hand, I'm going to be shamed. I'm going to be judged. I'm going to be cast out or something, or looked at differently. And it's such a shame that we have such stereotyping and we have such bias, and it just blows my mind sometimes when you sit and you really think about it, because we can go down a whole lot of rabbit holes, when we talk about a lot of these topics, right?
yeah, exactly. And I don't want to stop you, but I'm very aware of the time and comments
Oh,
still
yeah, yeah,
coming.
yeah.
So um, before we close, I really would like that Cherise share the last thought about this conversation. And also, if you want to reach out, how people can reach out to you, Cherise, because unfortunately, it's time that we close.
Hmm.
I'm very aware of the time. So, first of all, thank you very much for coming along and to be part of this conversation today. And thank you to everyone that actually enjoyed this conversation. Please leave us with a last comment or thought. Thank you.
Yeah. Again, thank you all so much for having me today. And I'll just leave you all with this. Like I stated, I came up with the framework of combining agile thinking with cognitive behavioral therapy. And I believe that when you use agile thinking to fix the process, and you use cognitive behavioral therapy to heal the mindset, that actually shapes a great culture within the healthcare system. Because when people feel safe to speak, and when the system is built to listen to them, patients are going to become safer in that environment. Your team is going to be stronger, and the organization actually is functioning in wisdom. And that's what it means to truly, think like a manager. So, yes, we understand everyone has their technical experience, but a lot of times in the healthcare system, no one took a management class. So no one really knows how to manage. Um, and so we have to move towards this agile thinking in healthcare. I just believe that that is the best response. But if anyone is interested in having a training, my think like a manager training, they can go to my website, slhwellnessmanagement.com, fill out the form. I'll contact you. I customize all of my trainings, but of course we definitely have that foundation of agile plus CBT, and but I customize it, um, and I work. I meet you where you are. I don't just come in and say, hey, do this, do this, do this. I meet you where you are. That's what Agile is all about, meeting you where you are, taking those small steps. If it doesn't work, as far as the iteration, we come back and we try to hit something else. So reach out to me. I'm open for discussion. The app is also coming. I'm speaking with Amazon now, getting it on the AWS platform. So the
Awesome.
Think Like a Manager app is coming. That is where I have like I am your coach inside of the app, if you will. There is a lot of gamified learning. There are case scenarios. I have an entire workbook, so I
Okay.
understand the busyness. I understand the busyness in healthcare. And so at any point in time, they can go to the app and learn how to think like a manager. So thank you all so much for having me on today. I appreciate all the comments and being a part of this. This was great.
Thank you
Awesome.
very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. I'm going to have to look into that because, we never stop learning, right? We can always learn
Right.
something. So
Right.
thank,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you so much for coming on today, Sherress. I value our friendship very much, and I appreciate that you could take the time today on your Sunday morning. So thank you.
Mhm.
And thank you to everybody that came today, and apologize. There's so many comments we couldn't get to all of them. Dina's trying to pop them up. I'm trying to read them here. I'm stumbling over them because like, but thank you guys so much. Dina, thank you again for you. Love you. Thank you for this platform, this opportunity, and this continued hierarchy of betrayal season two. And it's off to a really damn good start, as far as I'm
Yeah,
concerned.
it is. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming, Kim and Cherise. Thank you very much for coming. All of you enjoyed this conversation. We had a really good time. We have to close. Unfortunately, already 10 minutes past. And we're going to read back again all the comments and reply to you as much as we can.
Yes.
And we see you next week, next Saturday again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye. Thank
Bye.
you.